to be joined by a credible government voice, Sachin Pilot, who will be joining us in just a bit. But let me start by going back to our corporate guests. In fact, Sachin is with us. Rahul, Bajaj and Kiran Shaw. I'm going to let you ask Sachin Pilot why this budget has been a disappointing one. Kiran, to you first. Please ask Sachin Pilot every question that you have in terms of it not being a bold budget, not being one that could have actually been a game changer for this government.
Well, you know, it's very difficult to ask Sachin that question because I know that this has been a budget which has been, formulated in a way to appease everyone because they don't want to take on their coalition partners. But having said that, the one question I would ask is there were certain obvious announcements they could have made. I know that FDI in retail is a thorny issue, but what about FDI in aviation? Why did you fall short of that?
Right, Rahul, Bajaj, if I could let you also ask one question before Sachin responds. Mr. Bajaj.
Well, Sachin, what's your view? I mean, you can't answer as to why Pranab did this or did that, but we have to raise revenue, increase revenue to reduce fiscal deficit or reduce expenditure. As I've said earlier, he has said I can't reduce subsidies, and I believe, he didn't say so, that that's for political reasons and elections coming in May 2014 or even earlier, and to carry even Congress party, leave alone the allies with him. So you can't reduce expenditure. I don't like it. I think at least the inefficient part of it, corrupt part of it should be reduced. Going to Aadhaar will take time, so that's an issue. But why couldn't you have had much more disinvestment than 30,000 crores? I'm not talking of privatization, and there could be some people not liking it, but ultimately you have the 207 MPs. You can't, the tail can't keep wagging the dog, and for how long? This investment in a sensible way, non-strategic companies, there are a lot of companies which are closed in the public sector, loss-making, and could go to 50, 60, 70,000 crores. Why not even this? Does it not indicate that what Kiran was saying, we want to carry everyone along, and then where is the dynamism, where is pro-growth, and what have you done for the corporate sector, barring the weighted reduction for R&D for 5 years?
All right, Mr. N.K. Singh is also joining us, but I'm going to let Sachin respond to those two questions. Sachin, I know you're someone who's always very honest in giving those responses. These are tough questions, of course, being posed to you, and we understand that these questions may require a larger understanding of the political landscape. But would it be correct to say, because what both Kiran Shaw and Rahul Bajaj are suggesting, the government's hands are tied because of political compulsions?
Okay, first of all, let me compliment you for very smartly and deftly passing on the question-asking task to the other panelists as opposed to you asking me the tough questions. But let me, to Kiran's question first, I think you gave an example of FDI in aviation. There is a lot of FDI already in the sector, but what Pranab has done today is actually given some concessions on parts of the aircraft and to India to become a hub for services of the aviation sector. A lot of concessions being given for tires, for example, for other instruments, etc., that can make India the servicing hub for the aviation sector. You see, opening up and reforming of various sectors, it's much easier said than done. While it's important to keep on forging on the path for reform, it has to be done with the mindset that this should not be a one budget, one ticket, big bang sort of a theory. In this budget, I think it's a lot of consolidation, but for me, the key takeaway, I think, is the fact that the government's realization of reducing the subsidy burden from 2% to 1.75% of GDP, and also targeting the subsidy to the people who need it the most, whether it's fertilizers, whether it's diesel or kerosene. And this is a very welcome change. The fiscal deficit has gone up, as you know, but also the government has to find new avenues to generate revenue. Now, the concessions to the personal income tax has been given to almost all categories, but at the same time, service tax has been increased because, as you know, service tax collection is a lot much more than any other form of indirect tax or direct tax that the government earns. So this budget really is also allocating so much of money on social sector spending, on infrastructure, on growth, on farming, on agricultural credit. So you need to allow the finance minister to have some leeway. You know, this gentleman has to collect money from somewhere. At the same time, there are political compulsions when you run a coalition of parties that have different sort of ideological backgrounds, and you have to take them on board. It's a fact of life. You can take the budget out of politics, but you have to have some sort of political understanding while you make the budget.